This month, crash and burn across the Atlantic, plus taking the Olympics offshore. But first,
this is certainly the start of the journey.
The Mule and the America's Cup. They've been working in secret for months, behind closed doors, under the radar. They know their goal is ambitious and that the route to success will be hard, tougher than ever before. But America wants the America's Cup back. Since entering their challenge for the most prestigious prize in sailing, there's been little word from the team that is representing the New York Yacht Club. But now, under cover of darkness, they're making their first move in public to launch their first test boat, codenamed the Mule.
So a nice brisk fall day here in Portsmouth, Rhode Island at the Hinckley facility. We have the Mule, the American Magic 38 in the background, getting ready to go in the water for day one. And we have the team here that's been executing the game plan for the better part of 7 months. The initial concept of the boat was to really give the sailors an opportunity to learn about what we're getting into. And as the project grew, it was a way for the whole team to be involved in delivering a product to the water. It really is a mini AC-75. You see the whole team on display in every department working through their areas to try and solve a problem.
We started off with a Mechanical 38 and basically tore all the structure out of it, deck off, constructed a new deck and all new structure. Ended up with 20 guys up at the Bristol build facility, building all those parts and componentry, using some local suppliers as well to help with the composite work. And yeah, here we are today. Boats in the water for the first time.
You know, the job list is just never ending, and you know, from the guys in the shed, you know, the efforts that they did to build this boat and the time that they did and to the quality that it is, all the way through to, you know, the last fit out electronically, hydraulically. It was just a huge push the last week, so it's really good to have it in the water today. You've got to walk before you can run, so we're going to go out there, we're going to chip away, go through the systems, make sure that everything works on the water as it does in the shed, and then just take small steps forward. You know, this is a long road for us, but this is certainly the start of the journey.
3, 2, 1. Slowly taking it down from here. Look, puffing 2, sharp 1, not much behind her. Okay, another click here at 2. Going to pick up a bit of a heading puff and...
Mainsail looks good, nice and cambered, nice twist profile.
Going soft ahead, coming up. Little lighter for that, and then we're going to get another bit of pressure. Next move here will be a board down in 3, 2, 1.
Meanwhile, how are the other challengers getting on with their plans for the next Cup? The World Sailing Show caught up with them and the Defender at a reception in Monaco organised by the Challengers of Record. The British challengers, Ineos Team UK, had been the first to launch a test boat.
We've gone through a series, we have a priority list of things we actually want to test. Got a new rig in the boat, so we're testing a soft wing in that boat and a bunch of foil variations. So we're working through our list of priorities. The boys do a fair bit of swimming, that's no secret. But sometimes we might test a variation where we struggle with the control system and that results in more capsizes. Getting more and more difficult this time of year because it can be pretty damn cold and the weather's a bit intermittent. But we're still pushing on with our program. There's no doubt that the big boat is a huge step from our little T5 test boat. And all of us are a bit concerned about how that's going to go for us. I think it's highly likely we will capsize and capsize numerous times. And yeah, it's one thing to capsize on a 28-foot yacht, but a 70, 75-foot yacht is a little bit more daunting.
Luna Rossa has taken a different approach to their trial horse.
The boat everyone has seen daily is a cat. It's an old AC-45 just being shorted. We using that to develop the sail. mainly the mainsail, where we think there is a lot of gain there, and we're giving a lot of priority in that one, and then who knows, we may sail some other thing somewhere else. We are sailing quite a lot. We're doing a lot of simulation, obviously. I mean, it's not a secret, we have a pretty advanced simulator, and we are doing a lot of tests daily. And to be honest, I'm pretty happy so far on the result. We just launched the construction of boat 1 a few weeks ago, and we are looking forward for the beginning of the summer when we're going to launch boat 1.
But there's still been no sign of a test boat from the Defender.
Oh, we've been on the water in A-classes actually the last couple of weeks. It's been, you know, for us just great to jump in a little boat again and, you know, get back to, you know, some small boat sailing and, you know, some really high performance sailing and, you know, just do that kind of thing. But no, we haven't been in a test boat or anything like that, and you know, we're still a wee way off.
Just as the deadline for late entries approached, 2 new challenges were announced. First, the Malta Atlas Challenge threw its hat into the ring. Representing the Royal Malta Yacht Club, the campaign is backed by Pasquale Cataldi, an Italian-born businessman who announced his commitment to 3 America's Cup campaigns. Then came another American challenger, Stars and Stripes, representing the Long Beach Yacht Club, led by 3-time match racing world champion Taylor Canfield. Little more is known about these campaigns, with more news expected in the new year. So, among the current challenger tally of 5, it's a cat, a mule, and a wet pocket rocket that are shaping the future for the next America's Cup as the clock continues to count down. The Monaco event also revealed several new developments in the next Cup cycle. Attended by some of the biggest names in the Cup, the evening presentation had been organised by challengers of record Luna Rossa, who unveiled a new trophy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Prada Cup!
Designed by Mark Newsom, the Prada Cup will be awarded to the victorious challenger in the next America's Cup cycle. The date and venue for the first America's Cup World Series event was also announced. Sardinia, in October 2019. Los Cabos rounded off an extraordinary 12th season for the Extreme Sailing Series, as the tour visited 7 countries across 3 continents. Going into the final event, 3-time champions Alinghi held a 3-point lead over SAP and 5 points over Oman Air. But this regatta counted for double points. The margin was minuscule, allowing the Mexican venue to shuffle the podium at a stroke. All of the top 3 teams were capable of taking the top spot. For last year's series champions, SAP Extreme Sailing Team, the 2018 finale in Los Cabos delivered mixed results. Despite a talented crew that included some of the world's best sailors, such as Kiwi match racing champion Adam Minoprio, the Danish squad sailed inconsistently in Mexico. And as their score sheet became filled with low results, so the gap grew between them and Alinghi in the overall rankings. The Danes' hopes of securing a second consecutive series win sailed off with the Swiss into the distance as the 2 rivals headed in opposite directions on the results table.
Alinghi will win here in Mexico. They will win the 2018 series, finishing in style in Mexico, across the line.
Ernesto Bertorelli's standout squad, helmed by Arno Sarafagis, had finished the double points finale in first place. They'd stamped their authority on the event once again, leaving their opponents to consider where their challenges had gone wrong.
Obviously, we're a little bit disappointed about finishing outside of the podium here in Los Cabos, but also 3rd place was not what we were aiming for. We were hoping to fight Alinghi for the first spot.
SAP eventually finished the act in 4th, resulting in a 3rd place finish overall, behind Phil Robertson's team Oman Air.
Yeah, look, it was a tough old day for us today, probably our worst of the event, but Bellinghy, hats off, you know, they sailed a pretty impressive season and they definitely stepped it up today and sailed a pretty impressive day. So, look, we can't do much more when someone's on fire that much, and yeah, we sailed our best. We definitely saved our best for last in sort of the season, and the last couple of events really ramped it up, which is nice, and yeah, we're content, but look, we want to be winning.
Alinghi's win not only delivers yet more silverware, but makes them the joint most successful team ever to participate in the Extreme Sailing Series, level with former competitors, the Wave Muscat.
It was a really tricky event, and because really shifty wind and not many races, so you need to be good all the time, and the team did a really good job to keep the pace going, and every point counted, so we were really happy to win here, and I feel really relieved actually, because it was really intense weekend for me.
5 wins this year out of 7 acts, an emphatic way to take the title. Coming up next, crash and burn across the Atlantic. Plus, the Olympics head offshore. Welcome back. Still to come, a Southern Ocean rescue and a big change for the Games. But first, within just a few hours, some of the biggest and fastest boats in the fleet were in bits. Some broke down closer to the finish on the far side of the Atlantic, and some blasted their way to victory. Crash and burn, boom or bust, call it what you will, the 40th edition of the Route du Rhum was a brutal affair. The start of the 3,500-mile race from Saint-Malo in France to Guadeloupe had seen some of the biggest machines in the race crippled and capsized within hours of the start as a powerful winter storm swept through the Atlantic. In the 100-foot Ultime class, Gitana was broken, Banque Populaire upside down, and Sodebo skipper Thomas Coville reported structural damage to his boat. Elsewhere, boats had been dismasted.
I went down below to organise a few things, and there was a bang. I came up on deck and the mast was in the water.
Many had run for shelter, while others had retired, and there was plenty more drama to come. In the fleet of 20 IMOCA 60s, the first of the new generation, Jérémie Bayou's Charal had stolen the show during a training run. But less than 24 hours after the start, steering problems forced her skipper to retire. 8 days later, and the focus was on Alex Thompson aboard Hugo Boss. Having outsmarted the rest of the fleet in the opening stages, Thompson had led the field across the Atlantic. Smart tactics and a fast passage looked set to deliver his first major win. But Thompson had pushed himself hard. In the first 4 days, he'd slept no more than 1 hour in every 24, as he kept his foot pressed to the floor. 1,000 miles out from the finish, it was time to change gear.
I'm glad to take it easy. There's no point in me pushing too hard and breaking something now. I may as well try and consolidate, not push too hard, try and get some rest and not make any mistakes if possible.
Words that would haunt him later. And as he closed in on the finish, it was the same message.
So really all I have to do is take it easy. Don't get too smart, don't push too hard, which is kind of difficult because A, it's me, and B, because that's what I've been doing this entire race. I'm in fine fettle and good spirits. A little tired, I'm amazed how the body can operate on such little sleep. So there we are, we can all do more than we think we can.
But the relentless pace was about to take its toll. After 11 days at sea and just 65 miles from the finish, he ran aground on the northern tip of Guadeloupe when his alarm failed to wake him. The boat was damaged, but still capable of reaching the finish. But having used his engine to haul the boat off the rocks, Thompson was dealt a 24-hour penalty. Enough for both Paul Meyer aboard SMA and Jan Ellis aboard UCAS Saint-Michel to come steaming through to take first and second. Thompson was forced to take third.
This sport is about detail, and in the final last minute, I didn't get the detail right. To be last night grounded on the rocks, I just feel very lucky to be here with the boat, you know, with very little wrong with it, a few holes.
As the dust settled, Thompson remained gracious in defeat.
I've been given a 24-hour penalty, which, to be honest, I think is very fair because I feel I've disqualified myself. Something to learn from. The land of hard knocks. It is a shame. It is a real shame. And I'm obviously devastated and disappointed, particularly after such a great race. Right now, I'm disappointed in myself. It'll be hard for me to overcome that, but the reality is there's lots of positives from this. Clearly we have the fastest boats. Clearly I sailed a great race. I'm here more than 12 hours before anybody else. There's some great positives from this. It'll probably take a few days to take the positives from it.
Back out in the Atlantic, there were more dramas as Lalou Roucarol's 50-foot trimaran Arkema capsized. The French skipper was safe and was rescued by fellow competitor Pierre-Antoine, who went on to win his class. Meanwhile, the biggest and most competitive fleet of them all was doing battle. 53 Class 40s had started the race. Among them, Phil Sharp aboard Imerys Clean Energy, who'd held on to second place for most of the crossing. But it hadn't been easy.
I think it's the last few days you really question why you do offshore sailing, particularly solo. It's been very wet, very cold, very windy. Last night emphasised all of those put together.
But 2 days later, life got even tougher.
Trying to push the boat as hard as possible to keep up with these newer designs. First place, Vidal, and third place, Enrique on Aina. And it's tricky condition actually. Strong upwind tonight, which is also going to be very challenging. And I might have to get the storm draft again by the looks of the weather. Not looking pleasant at all.
After 16 days, Yoann Richomme, who'd led from the start aboard Vidal AIC, took the win with ease. Aymeric Chapellier's Aina Enfance slipped past Sharp to take second.
Salut, salut, bienvenue à bord d'Aina Enfance Avenir, on est le dernier jour de course. Yaha! En fin d'après-midi, on devrait arriver aux abords de la Guadeloupe.
I'm pretty exhausted, to be honest. I haven't slept for a good 24 hours and I've just been pushing. I was pushing really, really hard last night to try and make up every bit of distance we could on Aina, but it didn't work.
The French skipper held onto his position to the finish, leaving Sharp in third. One of the oldest, slowest and smallest boats to complete the race received one of the biggest welcomes, as offshore legend Loïc Peyron completed the trip aboard his newly restored 39-foot wooden trimaran Happy. Completing his 51st Atlantic crossing and his 8th Route du Rhum, Peyron had set out to pay homage to the early pioneers of ocean racing.
Yeah, what a race. In fact, that's the proof that you can race, whatever the size of your shoes or your boots or your ears or whatever the size of your boat. You have to race and you have to push the limit, which I've done quite a lot. I was impressed, in fact. I never sailed like I've done during the training session on the last 4 years, never. That's a marvelous little machine, which is for sale. Avant, le petit Happy est à vendre, mes enfants. Hein?
After a tough, relentless crossing, there were doubtless others who were feeling the same way. At 10:30 UTC on the 5th of December, a distress message was received from 29-year-old British sailor Susie Goodall after her Rustler 36 DHL Starlight was dismasted. Goodall was 2,000 miles west of Cape Horn, deep in the Southern Ocean, one of the most remote places on Earth. She'd been competing in the single-handed Golden Globe race around the world. After 157 days at sea, her boat had been thrown end over end, pitch-poled, in a ferocious storm. 2 days later, She was rescued by a 38,000-ton cargo ship, Tianfu, which then diverted to Punta Arenas, Chile, to transfer the British sailor to shore. Goodall, who was lying in 4th place when the crisis struck, was one of 17 starters in the race that has now seen 10 competitors retire. At World Sailing's annual conference in Sarasota, Florida, there were 2 topics that stood out. The decision to drop the fin from the 2024 Games caused plenty of debate. So too did the news that offshore racing will be included at the Paris Olympics. To find out what this might mean, the World Sailing Show asked someone who had succeeded in both. He's a double Olympic medalist. He skippered Abu Dhabi Racing to victory in the 2016 Volvo Ocean Race. And now he's Director of Racing at the Royal Yachting Association. We started by asking just how big a deal is this move?
This isn't the first time there's been keelboats in the Olympics. If you go back over history, there's been a multitude of different keelboats. So this isn't completely new, but offshore sailing would be new.
How would this fit with the current trends in offshore sailing?
Offshore is pretty popular in several countries, particularly France, the host country. You look at the success and the growth of the Vendée Globe, of the Route du Rhum, and we've had some very well-known offshore sailors from Great Britain, from the likes of Ellen MacArthur to more recently Dee Caffari, Alex Thompson. So, it is going on, and interestingly, double-handed offshore sailing is one of the growth areas of our sport in the UK, and I'm talking about club level. So actually it is tapping into what is a growing area of the sport right now.
How different will it be to conventional Olympic racing?
It comes with a lot of challenges as well. It comes with challenges around, I think, rule compliance. I think challenges around presentation. Yes, it's going to happen 24 hours a day, but it's going to be dark for a large number of those hours, even in the summer in the south of France. And of course, if you don't get the wind, how appealing is it going to be to a TV audience if the boats are stuck in no wind at night somewhere off the coast of Marseille? And it does have the potential to genuinely offer something different. I haven't got a crystal ball, but at least we've got gender equity, which is definitely positive. I think we're as inclusive as we can be, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with a format and the equipment that works and generally make it accessible, and it'll be a good news story.
Next month, Cool Kit. We look at some key innovations for 2019, plus a new move for a classic race.